Here we go. What is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is doing good. I am great because we're diving back into the lab, baby. We're talking scouting reports. Today we're talking Nathaniel Tank Dell. Very interesting prospect. Now with those Houston Texans. He's an interesting prospect. I'm not going to lie to y'all. When I first saw his game, I really thought about it and said, could this be another Tutu Atwell in the making? And then it kind of changed my opinion as I dove into more of his film. He is a very interesting prospect, and I'll put it there. Don't want to give too much away because I got you covered for stats, the team that drafted him, and then pros, cons, and a grade score at the end. So definitely follow me. Let's talk a little Tank Dell today because it's good. For those of you not necessarily familiar with a Nathaniel Tank Dell, I mean, this might be the first exposure that you're really getting from him right now. We're seeing a lot of hype right now going through the Twitter sphere. You know, the Houston Texans coaching staff saying he's turning a lot of heads, and I'm not surprised with that whatsoever, as, you know, they're playing in shorts and he's showing off his capabilities because this is where it's going to be. But when we put the pads on, what are we going to see from Tank Dell? It's very interesting, very curious to see, no kidding. But let's talk about that NFL draft and the team that got him. It is the Houston Texans, round 3, pick number 6. A little higher than I thought he was going to go, but they're banking on the fact of the unique skill set that he does possess, and he does possess a unique skill set. No kidding. He is interesting, and I don't want to sit here and tell you that I'm going to be over the moon or I'm extremely opposing of his game, because it's not the case whatsoever. I find many great things of his game and traits, and I see some negatives that could pull him back. But when we're talking about this Houston Texan depth chart at the wide receiver position, and I've been a big supporter. If you guys have been watching my videos, I'm a huge supporter of what they're doing in Houston right now. A big fan of D'Amico Ryans. He's going to get that defense playing up to par. And now with this offense under CJ Stroud, the franchise passer for the future, hopefully. You know, you had Dameon Pierce, you signed Devin Singletary, and now we're talking this wide receiver depth. They picked up Bobby Trees, Robert Woods. You got Nico Collins, John Mechie coming back from the leukemia, or I believe it was leukemia. Hopefully he's back on the field this year. That's going to be very good. Noah Brown coming over from the Cowboys. You still got my guy, Amari Rodgers. Come on, Amari. You got some, pressure on your back right now with Tank Dell on your back. Xavier Hutchinson, another rookie that they drafted, Steven Sims, and then Johnny Johnson III, who does have wheels. So there is a boatload of talent here at the wide receiver position that they will try to evaluate properly and give CJ Stroud as many possible viable weapons that they can get in this offense to move it forward in year one of CJ Stroud's progression. I believe that Robert Woods was a stroke of genius because they knew that they were likely going to get a CJ Stroud. Perfect marriage for a young rookie quarterback to have a safety blanket like a Robert Woods. Yes, is Robert Woods aging? Yes, is he not the player that he used to be? Absolutely not. But he will still be, decently viable for a CJ Stroud in his progression. We do have to understand Tank Dell has got a lot of competition to beat out because, in my opinion right now, if John Mechie's healthy, he's the guy that's taking that slot role in this offense. No kidding. Nico outside, Robert Woods, you play them both in and out, potentially. So we're going to see Xavier Hutchinson. Do not fade that man either because he could definitely be an outside presence that could do some damage. He's like a lesser Mike Evans type of guy for me, Xavier Hutchinson. I'll definitely do a scouting report on this man as well because I really like his game. But there is a lot of, obstacles for Tank Dell to get over, so he definitely has to show out in training camp, mini camps, and now we're in voluntary OTAs. He has to show out, but I'm a big fan of what these Texans are doing. If they continue to build in this direction, man, 2 years, 3 years, they're going to be a team to be reckoned with because D'Amico Ryans does not play around on defense. And they got a damn good secondary in the building as well right there. So let's dive into what Tank Dell did in college. Statistical magician, wizard, however you want to call him. But he is only 5'8", 165 pounds. He is 23 years of age. So, on that cusp of being the older rookie at this point. 35 contests, 228 receptions, 31, 55 in yards, 13.8 on the average, and a whopping 32 touchdown receptions. You're rivaling my guy Chris Olave when it came to college football touchdown productivity in the your college 3-year span. He was a beast. I mean, what can you say? Statistically speaking, you have nothing negative to say about what Tank Dell was able to produce on the field. Just extremely explosive playmaker that was able to support this offense and be the go-to guy week in, week out. He just the staple of consistency, no kidding, when it came to his statistical achievement. But we got some pros. I got a good list of pros. I do like the man. I think that he did turn my head. Senior Bowl definitely turned my head that much more. Even though I did see a lot of his film before the Senior Bowl definitely turned my head. But now that he's with the Houston Texans, the team dynamic is definitely going to either, uplift him or cripple him. That's simple how it is. And especially with a wide receiver room like I broke down for y'all, it's going to be very tough for him. So he's definitely got to show out better tape speed than 40 time, 4.49 on the 40. I truly expected him to run better. I thought he was going to be a 4.3, 9, 4.38 type of guy. Did not happen, especially at 5'8", 165. So it does give you the concern that if he does put on some weight, gets up to maybe 175, 180, would be a little bit better for the body frame, but then will he lose that speed even more? But it's kind of that mix that his tape speed doesn't show any sign of not being that explosive type of player. So, I mean, it is one of those caveats. He doesn't test well maybe, and he looks better on film when it comes to his speed attributes. Burst is absolutely fantastic. He's a complete first step burst is just glorious. Shake and juke magician. He will shake you out of your pants in a phone booth. That's just what he is. I know that's an old analogy, but I'm sticking with it because I'm old. But he's very good in that shake and juke. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Change of direction is insane. Agility's top end. You're not going to be wanting for nothing when it comes to that of his skill set. He definitely gets massive check marks in all of these traits when it comes to the agile movements, juke, shake, and speed aspect, the burst aspect, I should say, over the speed. But everything in this realm, he does get very high check marks in my boxes. Foot quickness is great. Short area quickness, unbelievable. And this is where he's going to make his money. If he can understand how to manipulate NFL defensive backs this way, he will be extremely successful. That is the if, okay, because the body frame will tell the tale. I'll talk about that in the cons, but the foot quickness is so good that he will put guys on skates. No kidding about that. Footwork release is very strong. While I do have the press in the con, the footwork release, if he does that double step shuffle, he is off to the races, especially going on slants or going on the quick outs, even going deep, mid-range to, 30 yards down the field, in the middle of the field. If you can have that one high safety and he pinches on one side, Tank Dell could definitely make a house call on any given moment because he is that quick and fast, and he just generates that separation, baby. This is what you're looking for from all of your wide receivers when you're talking about young rookie talents. He's already 3 legs ahead of the class when it comes to route run ability and separation, because he separates majority of the time. His route tree is phenomenal. The plant steps, the cut steps, just so good in a Tank Dell. And this is why, when I said earlier, at the beginning, I kind of pegged him as a Tutu Atwell. I was never a Tutu Atwell fan, and I guess I was a little biased simply because of the, stature in these two gentlemen. It just doesn't necessarily translate outside of being a gadget guy in the NFL like we're seeing from Tutu so far in his short NFL career. But where it did, fall off for me even worse was when Tank ran the 4.49, where Tutu Atwell's a 4.3 guy, right? So now you're talking, well, Tutu's got the speed. He can't necessarily do it. What makes Tank Dell, different than Tutu? And I'm telling you right now, it's the route run and the separation and the plant step ability to make the defensive backs miss. They will be on skates. No kidding, legit. This is what Tank Dell is the best part of his game. No kidding about that. He does bait the defensive backs with sudden, quick, sharp movements. And it's littered all over his film, man. There's a lot of tape to dissect on a Tank Dell because he put up so much statistics, and you do see it. He does understand how to bait it, understands where to put himself in the middle of the field, understands even yak ability after the catch. It is there, but there is some cons in that as well. But he does bait the defensive backs as long as he gets that free release. I think I should caveat that way. If he gets the free release off of the slot, then, it's home. He's good. He's going to make plays. He's going to find open opportunities in these lanes on these defensive backs, and he is so good and sharp in that respect. It's hard to say anything negative about that part of his game. Hands are soft for me. No issues with the hands. I got something in the con for you as well, so I'll put a little asterisk on that, but there is no slap. When he makes the catch, it does corral those balls in, and it's good. It's very good hands. You want to see more consistency, I want to say maybe out of them, but he still was able to put up a massive amount of numbers, and perhaps that is one of the situations. The statistics are so good. I'll touch that in the cons. I won't get ahead of myself. Consistent college football statistical machine, 90 receptions in 2021 for 1329 and 12 touchdowns. Follows that up in 2022 with 109 receptions, 1398, and 17 touchdowns. Unbelievable statistical achievement in college football. This is why when you see a wide receiver who can separate absolutely consistently, runs clean routes, has wheels and burst, and he's putting up this type of college productivity, you're going to take notice 100%. And if he doesn't pan out in the NFL, it was worth the shot because there is so much high-end potential here. On the upside, he also is a good punt returner, so maybe he could, etch out a role for himself on special teams if he doesn't, get a spot on this roster as a wide receiver within the first couple years. At least he'll have a home on special teams, but he does got some cons. And we got to discuss them. First one we all know, man. Undersized, 5'8", smaller frame, 165, soaking wet. It's not good, man, okay? And you want to see that weight increase. I've always said, can rookie in the NFL develop his body in the NFL weight room and a meal plan? 110%. It's not a big deal. A player can gain 10 to 12 pounds within one season. No kidding. Will this hamper a Tank Dell when it comes to speed? There is potential in that regard, but then he is so good at his craft, like I'm saying, when it comes to separation and route run appeal, that even if he does put on some more weight, it may help him that much more because he won't necessarily rely on the speed, but he's got the capabilities. He's a technician when it comes to the separation and route run. It is very good. Contact balance will be an issue if jammed, much like press. I mean, it's going to be an issue. The size and stature, he just doesn't have the physicality, not much strength on the frame. So if he gets pressed up, like I said, he needs those free releases, even though his footwork is that good that he could probably create the free release off a quick, hand punch to the defensive back. It's likely going to, help and aid him. But if the defensive back is quality and he's going to jam up Tank Dell, it's going to be very difficult for him to get off the line because that is the situation with his size and stature. He is an easy tackle if he's lined up. I mean, 165 soaking wet, you're not going to see him bust off many tackles. Is he Kadarius Toney? No, I'm not going to say that. I think Kadarius Toney's, shake and juke in the open field is probably better, where Tank does rely on his speed that much more, but he can get away, and he will get away. He is that good and sharp in that respect. Also, he has had a dropping problem in college football, but, I mean, he still put up the stats. So that's why I'm saying the hands are soft. I still like the hands. It's not a full-on criticism, more so of a comment, because when a guy gets that much productivity, so many targets to come his way, you got to expect drops are going to happen. And it's not I'm concerned of his hands, not even close. He did have some drops, but I just think it was due to sheer amount of volume over the fact that, I don't even say concentration. I don't even want to put it in that, because I just think it's just, it happens. Sometimes guys drop some passes just because they've seen so much volume, and it does become that issue. I don't even think it's a concentration issue. I don't think there's anything wrong with his hands. I just had to put it down here as there's nowhere else to put it. I just got to put it as con because he did drop some passes. Hands are smaller, 17th percentile. And I mean, for his height and stature, like I'm saying, the hands and the arm length are going to be, basically how it is for who he is. And I mean, okay, we've seen guys with smaller hands still make plays in the league, and I think that this won't necessarily inhibit him, of course, because we've seen it on tape for, the past 2 years. He's been able to be so good in the Houston offense that I think it's going to translate decently in the NFL. Again, smaller hands, just measurables. You got to put it down here somewhere. It still is a negative. He likely won't have a prime role in the NFL, and this is kind of what I'm saying, especially in this offense with a guy like John Mechie. I think that Mechie is going to be home in the slot. He's going to have his role, barring his health, obviously. Will he only be Tank Dell, I'm speaking of? Will he only be the slot gadget, punt returner, deep threat appeal, where they manufacture ways to get him the ball? That's kind of what I'm concerned about, because a lot of people were on the 2-2 bandwagon thinking he was going to be this primary slot guy taking over games. It hasn't translated thus far, and I think that, 2 to 3 years out, we will understand what Tank Dell is going to be, and I really do have the positivity because he is a better route runner than a Tutu Atwell ever was, maybe ever will be. But I think it's in that same category. I think the Tank is so good in that respect, he will be able to find ways to say, to the coaching staff, you cannot take me off the field because I am that good. But I am, a little bit, cautiously optimistic and, concerned a little bit because the slot gadget returner, if he's not full-time player, you're going to see maximum, 50, 60 targets a season for a Tank Dell because he is a specialist, quote-unquote, rather than a primary wide receiver. That is a very big possibility, and it is something of a concern for me, especially in the fantasy community. If you guys are talking about Tank Dell, that is something of a concern. Like I said, Tutu Atwell, I've been saying his name the whole time, Isaiah McKenzie type of player. I've seen some people discuss, potentially Tavon Austin style, and I think that, with Tutu being the 4.39 guy, Isaiah McKenzie being like a 4.42, 4.43 guy, and then you got Tank Dell at 4.49. Like I said, testing, some guys just don't test well. They play better football on the field, and I think Tank is that type of guy. He tested very well in the short area quickness, agility, measurements, but, in that respect, you got to believe that's kind of where he's going to be home here in the NFL, is that Isaiah McKenzie type of role, potentially, and then, maybe a little bit more depending on how he rounds out the rest of his game. But I will be watching training camp very much intently for these Houston Texans because so far in OTAs, he's been doing very well, and coaches are definitely talking up his game. But the difference that he does have between all those players, it's the route run and separation, and that could definitely prolong his career and force himself on the field to have a primary role with these Houston Texans, because I think, a CJ Stroud would absolutely love Tank Dell over the middle, making plays. But for grading purposes, got to give grade scores to all these guys. You know this, and I got a decently favorable score. He scored out extremely high for all of the technician, agiles, route run separation movements, and then he kind of fell off on others. 72.9% is a very good score for a Tank Dell, and I do like his game. I'm not going to sit here and tell you otherwise. I'm very, very much impressed with how he, can separate and get off these defensive backs and make all these plays. You go watch at least 4 games of Tank Dell this past season, and you're going to be just as impressed as I was, because he is that good. And you wish that he was a little bit bigger. If he was 5'10", 185, he'd be up in the top, likely could have even been a first-round pick the way that he plays football and runs those routes. Tank Dell is definitely a fan favorite of mine. I'm rooting for him. And like I said, the score isn't bad. It's just, there is some, concerns because of his body type and what he may potentially be role-wise in the NFL with the Houston Texans. So there you have it. That is Nathaniel Tank Dell, now Houston Texan product, former University of Houston player. And I'm not cussing the guy. I like his game a lot. I'm really, truly rooting for him. And like I said, I might start being a, quiet Houston Texans supporter, even though I'm a massive Bills fan. I just love what these Texans are doing on the, the rebuild with the new head coach. It's looking very, very good to me. Hopefully it continues for you Houston Texans fans, because you guys should be smiling already. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts. What do you think of Tank Dell? You excited? You don't like him? You think it was a reach in the draft? Are you drafting him in fantasy football? Whatever you want to talk about, say hi, throw it in the comments. We continue to grow this channel to 1,000, but we'll see you next time. I am out.